Imagine Rome in December. Torches burn against the winter darkness. Music spills from crowded dining rooms. Dice strike wooden tables. Wine splashes into painted cups. And the streets pulse with a shout heard across the city. Io Saturnalia. For a few extraordinary days, the Romans loosened the rules that controlled nearly every part of public life. They dressed more brightly, gambled more openly, exchanged gifts, crowned mock rulers, filled their houses with banquets, and celebrated a world in which almost anything might happen next. This was Saturnalia, Rome's most electrifying festival. It was not simply a religious ceremony, and not merely a feast. It was a city-wide change of mood. The strict, status-obsessed capital of the Mediterranean transformed itself into a theater of noise, color, appetite, and carefully licensed chaos. The festival honored Saturn, an ancient Roman god associated with sowing and agricultural abundance. His temple stood at the foot of the Capitoline Hill, dominating one end of the Roman Forum. Beneath it, the Roman state stored part of its treasury. That combination was perfectly Roman. Sacred tradition, public money, and political power gathered in one monumental place. On the 17th of December, attention turned toward this temple. A sacrifice opened the public festival, followed by a banquet. The woolen bindings normally wrapped around the feet of Saturn's cult statue were removed. Ancient Romans connected this release with the freedom and abundance of the mythical age when Saturn had ruled Italy. According to that story, Saturn's age existed before exhausting labor, extreme inequality, and the hard boundaries of later society. Food was plentiful. People lived more freely. Whether Romans truly imagined the past that way, or simply enjoyed the excuse, Saturnalia promised a temporary return to a richer, easier world. The transformation was instantly visible. Respectable Roman men normally displayed status in the heavy white toga. During Saturnalia, that formal garment could give way to the synthesis, colorful dinner clothing, usually reserved for private banquets. Crimson, saffron, green, violet, and bright white replaced the severe uniform of civic life. The pointed felt cap, called the pileus, became another symbol of the holiday's liberty. Across streets, courtyards, and dining rooms, the usual visual code of Roman rank became harder to read. For anyone entering the city, it must have looked as if Rome had changed costume overnight. Women were at the center of the celebration too. Imagine elegant adult Roman women arriving through lamplit doorways in vivid stolae and draped pallae, their hair arranged in elaborate curls and braids, gold earrings catching the firelight. They joined family feasts, exchanged gifts, watched performers, and moved through a social world suddenly brighter and less formal than usual. Then came the dice. Romans loved games of chance, but gambling was normally restricted and morally suspect. Saturnalia pushed those restraints aside. Dice boxes rattled, knuckle bones bounced, coins changed hands, and players leaned over boards beneath flickering oil lamps. Even enslaved people could be permitted to gamble during the festival. Every throw created a tiny drama. A lucky cast could ignite cheers around a table. A terrible one could empty a purse. Wine made the wagers bolder, the laughter louder, and the judgment worse. The image of Saturnalia preserved in a late Roman calendar even shows a table with dice. Gambling was not a footnote to the festival. It was one of its defining sights. Beyond the gaming tables waited the banquet. Roman dining rooms were built for spectacle. Guests reclined on couches around low tables, while servants carried platters beneath painted walls and mosaic floors. Dates, figs, olives, breads, cheeses, fish, poultry, rich sauces, and cups of watered wine could turn a wealthy household's celebration into a display of abundance. Musicians and performers kept the room alive. Conversation moved from sharp jokes to gossip and shouted songs. Perfume, lamp smoke, spiced wine, and roasted food mixed in the warm air. In humbler homes, the dishes were simpler, but the desire was the same: eat better than usual, stay up later, and make the winter darkness feel far away. Some parties appointed a mock ruler, known as the leader of the Saturnalia. Chosen by chance or by the household, this prince of misrule issued ridiculous commands. One guest might have to sing, another might dance, carry someone around the room, or plunge into cold water. The authority was theatrical, but refusing would spoil the game. For a moment, the banquet belonged not to the sternest patriarch or highest official, but to whoever chance had crowned. It made Saturnalia unpredictable. No guest knew whether the next order would bring applause, embarrassment, or total chaos. The festival's most famous custom took place inside the household. Roman sources describe enslaved people receiving unusual permission to dine, speak freely, gamble, and relax ordinary discipline. In some homes, they ate first. In others, enslaved and free members of the household may have eaten together. Some accounts say masters actually served the meal. The details probably varied across centuries and households. This was not emancipation, and it did not erase the violence of Roman slavery. When the festival ended, legal power remained exactly where it had been. But the temporary reversal was still striking, because Roman society normally insisted so aggressively on rank and obedience. Saturnalia also allowed sharper speech. A joke or criticism that might be dangerous on an ordinary day could be tolerated as December liberty. Roman literature imagines enslaved speakers using the holiday to expose a master's hypocrisy. Laughter offered protection, but everyone understood that the protection had an expiration date. Outside the banquet room, the city became a marketplace of presents. Shops and temporary stalls displayed wax candles, pottery, food, clothing, writing materials, cups, perfume, and small figures made from wax or terracotta. The festival's gift market was so distinctive that its final days became associated with the sigillaria, named for those little figurines. Picture the scene: rows of lamps glowing through the dusk, merchants lifting painted objects toward passing customers, children reaching for tiny animals and human figures, wealthy shoppers followed by attendants, and beautifully dressed women comparing jewelry, fabrics, perfumes, and delicate gifts beneath striped awnings. Not every present was magnificent. That was part of the fun. Roman writers describe a gift culture ranging from silverware and expensive clothing to toothpicks, sponges, sausages, cheap lamps, and deliberately absurd surprises. A package could flatter a friend, mock a rival, repay an obligation, or reveal that the giver had spent almost nothing. Gifts were entertainment, but they were also social signals. Rome ran on networks of family, friendship, patronage, and debt. Saturnalia generosity could strengthen those relationships. A powerful patron might reward dependents. Friends competed in wit. Lovers selected intimate presents. Every object carried a message about affection, status, taste, or obligation. The festival did not remain frozen in one form. It began as a celebration on December 17th, but festivities spread across additional days. By the late Republic and early Empire, Romans could behave as if Saturnalia occupied nearly a week through the 23rd. Emperors tried to regulate its official length, yet popular enthusiasm was difficult to compress. Seneca complained that the whole city seemed to be in a sweat while preparations roared around him. The poet Catullus called Saturnalia the best of days. Their reactions capture two sides of the festival: irresistible excitement for those inside it, and exhausting noise for anyone hoping to remain sober and quiet. Nor was Saturnalia confined to elegant houses in the capital. Versions of the celebration appeared across the Roman world. Soldiers stationed on distant frontiers prepared special food. A surviving wooden letter from Vindolanda in northern Britain concerns supplies for Saturnalia, proof that the festival reached communities thousands of kilometers from Rome. Yet no single camera could have captured one universal Saturnalia. A senator's marble dining room, a soldier's barracks, a merchant's apartment, and an enslaved workers' quarters offered radically different celebrations. Wealth determined the quality of the feast. Local customs shaped the party. Personal authority determined how generous any temporary liberty became. Modern retellings often call Saturnalia the Roman Christmas. The comparison is tempting. December dates, candles, feasting, and gifts look familiar. But a simple claim that Christmas directly copied Saturnalia goes far beyond what the evidence can prove. Saturnalia belonged to its own religious world, centered on Saturn, Roman civic ritual, and the imagined return of a golden age. What made the festival unforgettable was not one custom, it was the combination. Sacred ceremony opened the door. Colorful clothing changed the city's appearance. Gambling injected risk. Wine and music erased restraint. Gifts flooded the markets. A mock king ruled the party. Ordinary hierarchy bent just enough to make the return of normal life feel distant. And then, suddenly, it ended. The lamps burned down. The final dice were gathered. Bright dinner clothes were folded away. Debts and hangovers remained. And Rome put its formal face back on. Masters were masters again. Officials returned to business. The thrilling world of Saturn had vanished. That may have been Saturnalia's greatest trick. Rome did not destroy its rules. It made breaking them part of the calendar. For a few winter nights, one of history's most disciplined societies celebrated abundance by flirting with disorder. The result was loud, beautiful, risky, and impossible to ignore. Rome's wildest week.